Hello students, welcome for today's e-learning session. Hope you all are safe and sound at your home and taking all the preventive measures as suggested by our government, like maintaining social distancing, wearing the mask as you go out, as well as washing the hands at a particular time interval. So let's begin today's session. The subject of the day is social science. I, Hina Mulrajani, will conduct your social science classes. Today we will go to the first chapter, the globe, a model of the earth. Here we will discuss the shape of the earth, meaning of the globe, poles, hemispheres, latitudes and longitudes, last but not least, global grid. So students, what is the shape of the earth? Yes, it is spherical in shape. But have you ever seen its spherical shape? No, because we can see earth from the ground and which is too huge to observe its spherical shape. We can see the flat surface. For observing the spherical shape of the earth, we have to go higher into the sky. As we can see in this figure, this photo has been taken from the space. The globe. What is the globe? It is the small representation of the earth showing the shape and location of the countries, continents, seas and oceans. We can see only one part of the globe at a time. To observe the other half, we have to turn it around. It has an axis tilted at an angle of 23.5 degrees, which is similar to that of the earth. Poles. The two endpoints of the axis of rotation are the poles. The north pole is to the north direction, whereas the south pole is to the south direction. Hemispheres. Our earth has been divided by the equator into two equal halves, which are known as the hemispheres. The hemisphere to the northern side is the northern hemisphere, whereas the hemisphere to the southern direction is the southern hemisphere. Latitudes and longitudes. The lines drawn on the globe to locate the places are known as the latitudes and the longitudes. All the slipping lines which are horizontal are the latitudes and all the vertical lines, that is the standing lines, are the longitudes. Features of latitudes. Each latitude run parallel to each other and are equidistant. They form complete circles. They decrease in length towards the poles. Equator, Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn, Arctic Circle and Antarctic Circle are the important latitudes of the globe. Longitudes. These form the semicircles and run from one pole to the other. They run in a true north-south direction and are farthest from each other at the equator. All the longitudes meet at the poles. Global grid. A network of lines formed by the latitudes and the longitudes together on the globe are the global grid, as you can see in the figure. This helps us to locate a city or the country or the continent on the globe very easily. So students, here I would like to switch to extra marks for your better understanding. Please listen carefully.
Globe, longitudes and latitudes. We all have heard these terms, but today we will understand what they are and why are they needed. So, Earth seems to appear flat, but it is not. We all know that it is spherical. However, it is very slightly flat at top and bottom. The globe is a miniature model of the Earth, with oceans, seas, countries, and continents, etc., depicted on it on a smaller scale. We can see the shape and location of these features on the globe. A globe can be rotated on its axis, which is nothing but just an imaginary line which passes through it vertically. The two end points of this imaginary axis are called poles. The point at the top towards the north is called North Pole, and the point at the bottom towards the south is called South Pole. At the midway between North Pole and South Pole is equator, which too is an imaginary line which divides our Earth into upper northern hemisphere and lower southern hemisphere. Look at the upcoming animation carefully to understand more about equator. The equator is an imaginary line passes through the Earth, dividing it into two equal halves. It passes at 0 degree. The areas near the equator receive maximum amount of sunlight throughout the year. So, we now understand what are poles and what is equator. But the question of how do we locate places on a globe and therefore Earth is still there, isn't it? Well, to locate different places on globe, various horizontal and vertical lines are drawn on it. The horizontal lines are called the latitudes or the parallels, as they are drawn parallel to the equator, and the vertical lines drawn from one pole to another are called longitudes or meridians. They are marked in degrees and minutes. Latitudes are the line running across the Earth horizontally. These parallel lines on the globe from equator up to the pole are at equal distance and are measured in degree. The latitude lines north of the equator are called northern latitude, while the latitude lines south of the equator are known as southern latitude. Now that we have introduced ourselves to latitudes, now we will move on to learn how to mark or number the latitudes, some important characteristics of latitudes and some important latitudes. Let's begin with marking the latitudes on a globe. We begin from equator, which is marked as 0 degree latitude. Then we mark North Pole as 90 degrees north, and after that we mark South Pole as 90 degrees south. Now any other parallels or latitudes will be drawn between 0 to 90 degrees north or 0 to 90 degrees south. It is important to note that all latitudes are drawn at an interval of 1 degree. This is why they all are at equal distance from each other. Hope now you have understood what the latitudes are and how are they used to find the location and direction of a place with respect to equator. Here are some important characteristics of latitudes or parallels. They all are complete circles with the exception poles. North and south poles are points, not circles. The length of the latitudes keep on decreasing as we move from equator to poles. All latitudes are equidistant from each other. There are total 181 latitudes including equator. Do you know that there are 4 other very important latitudes, which are Tropic of Cancer, 23.5 degree north, Tropic of Capricorn, 23.5 degree south, Arctic Circle, 66.5 degree north, and Antarctic Circle, 66.5 degree south. The red lines that you can see here are known as longitudes. Do you know what longitudes are? Longitudes are the imaginary lines running from North Pole to South Pole. They are measured in degrees from 0 degree at prime meridian to 180 degree east and 180 degree west. They are 360 in total and are helpful in calculating time and finding different places on the globe. Let's understand how to mark and number the meridians, their characteristics, and how to use them for locating places on globe. To mark or number a meridian, we need a reference meridian. Greenwich, near London, was decided to be considered as a reference to number other meridians. And meridians are drawn at a distance of 1 degree from each other. Thus, there are 180 meridians or longitudes towards the east and 180 meridians or longitudes towards the west of prime meridian. So, there are 360 longitudes in total. Therefore, the longitude basically helps us to know how far east or west a place is from Greenwich meridian. Here are some important characteristics of longitudes or meridians. They all are of same length. Equator is the place where any 2 meridians are at maximum distance from each other. As we move away from equator towards the poles, the distance between any 2 meridians decreases. So, having understood what the latitudes and longitudes, we must also keep in mind that they cut each other at an angle of 90 degrees. The network of lines formed by parallels and meridians is also called grid.
Now you have learned that a globe is a small model of the Earth. The equator is an imaginary line encircling the Earth midway between the poles. It divides the Earth into 2 equal halves called the hemispheres. Latitudes are horizontal lines drawn on a globe or map that go round the Earth parallel to the equator. Longitudes are the vertical lines drawn on a globe or map that run from the North Pole to the South Pole. If we know the latitude and longitude of a place, we can locate it accurately on the global grid. Some important terminologies. Axis. An axis is an imaginary line that runs through the North Pole and the South Pole and around which the Earth spins. Poles. Poles are the 2 endpoints of the axis of rotation of the Earth. Equator. Equator is an imaginary line that goes round the Earth and divides it into the northern and southern hemispheres. Latitudes. Latitudes or the parallels are imaginary lines that are drawn round the Earth parallel to the equator. They measure distance of a place north or south of the equator. Longitudes or meridians are the imaginary lines that run vertically from the North Pole to the South Pole. They measure the distance of a place east or west of the prime meridian. This is an image of Arda, which is in USA. It represents 3D scale model of our Earth. It shows mountains and other landforms in 3D. It measures 45.5 feet in diameter. It rotates and revolves just like the Earth does. Here we have come towards the end of the session. So students, complete the work assigned to you via PDF. Thank you. Stay home, stay safe.